We are we are live actually, but we're just giving it a second here. I see some familiar faces. Hello, hello. As you guys trickle in. All right, let's get started. What is going on? You are watching and, of course, listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition, where we're here every Wednesday night on the Crowdcast platform. This is episode 638. I am your host, Stevie V. This is where we cover sexuality and, of course, other hot LGBTQ topics that relate to our community. And in this episode, you'll be learning about the CDC and other agencies scrubbing important life-saving information on HIV and prevention. Also, the food that could be lowering your testosterone, really important stuff. And also, since poppers aren't regulated, are they actually safe to consume? All that coming up, plus more hot topics. But I couldn't do this without my co-host, Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing wonderful this evening. I'm feeling free and fancy free. I went to therapy today, so my mind is centered.
I love that. I love that. Very cool.
Good.
Nice. Therapy is always good. And, we had our guest on last week that really told us about his app, Voda, that everybody should really check out too. Because if you're not in therapy, you can also be doing Vodas. Implement that app into it. Download Voda. It's last week's episode 636. Check that out. Trump vowed to bring down egg prices, and they are at an all-time record high. I'm just curious, how many eggs do you eat per week?
Ma'am, a week? Okay, I eat 5 a day.
Or how about in a session?
I eat 5 a day.
5?
Yeah, like religiously.
I'm a 3-er right now. I do maybe 2 eggs and 1 egg white, or sometimes 2 egg whites and 1 full egg. And I might do with a lot of vegetables. And then I do a side of black beans. No salt added is my current regime. But yeah, you do 5?
I do 5, and my cholesterol is actually pretty high, so I should switch to egg whites.
Okay, well, yeah.
But I have good cholesterol too, so it kind of balances each other out. But I should definitely start switching to egg whites but they're just not the same. I love a nice runny yolk sometimes. I do over easy, or I don't know. I guess the egg prices are so high that we are just we're just gushing over eggs because they're so valuable now. They're more valuable than gold.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, it's a little bit crazy. Your microphone's set on the right thing,
it should
correct?
Be.
Let's double checking as we are live, as people trickle in.
Yep, we're good.
Oh, great. Perfect. Okay, good. So much hot topics to get into before we get into the topics that I mentioned, including somebody that we were touting as the first transgender Oscar-nominated actress for Emilia Perez. And I'm talking about Karla Sofia Gascon, who is nominated for Emilia Perez, and she has been going through it because they have found recent tweets that she has put out there as early as 2021 that were racist, insulting Black Muslims and Jews, as well as during George Floyd. Remember George Floyd? Towards him as well. And it's been many of the Oscar nods, and the people within the community have actually been distancing themselves. She has been a front runner with 13 Emilia Perez has been a front runner with 13 nominations, but the race has been considered an open field. There's a lot of other movies out there, including my favorite, Conclave, which I really loved. I saw with my boyfriend. But Gascon's past opinions on matters regarding George Floyd to Muslims in Europe, and her ongoing half apologies through the weekend made an embarrassing mess for Netflix awards team. And Netflix has really been distancing themselves from
Yeah.
her from all of this mess. And it's so sad, Kodi, because we were just tooting the first transgender actress to be nominated for an Oscar. And here we are barely a week later. And now it's like, are we canceling Karla? Because I just think it goes back to what is it with some of these actors and actresses and people in general that get a platform and then turn it around by some of the crazy things that they put out there? This isn't really like, there was an actress that I followed that I loved, Melissa Barrera. She was in a show called Vida that was a very small Latino X show that I loved so much, and she was amazing in it. She was tutored to be in Scream 7 and was fired because of her pro-Palestinian social media post about
Oh,
that were also somewhat interpreted by many as anti-Semitic, but in general, she was just
Palestine.
pro-Palestinian, and
Yeah.
she got fired from her job. What we're talking about with Karla is a little bit more serious. A lot of things that are against anti-Semitism, racist. It's too much, I think. And what do you think is going on in their minds when they post this stuff? Are they not thinking about the incredible opportunities that they've been given, that just do your job and don't get so political right now? Also, don't be racist. It's like not that
Yeah.
hard.
It's just that simple. Hello, don't be racist. That should be our 2025 mantra. Don't be racist. How about that? Karla is in danger. Karla, you in danger, girl. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I don't think that she understands it. I think that as far as the tweeting, certain people need to have their phones removed. They do not need access to the internet because they're racist and completely uh just unpopular and unwarranted opinions are just coming out all over the internet. It's just spewing. People get very brave when they have that anonymity that's behind the screen. And we were all applauding her. We were giving her
Yeah.
flowers, and then for something to come out like this is really disheartening. It really makes me sad, and she has no one to blame but herself, because at the end of the day, she did tweet those things. She opened herself up to this kind of scrutiny. So it really reminds me, you were just giving your example of what it reminds you of. It reminds me of, remember when Gina Carano from The Mandalorian, she was tweeting all these transphobic things, and Pedro Pascal came out and tried to help her amend those tweets, but she wasn't having it, and she got fired from The Mandalorian at the end of the day. And we were all up in arms about this, the energy that we had toward Gina and her transphobic tweets. That's the same energy that we need to have. Just because she is one of our own, Karla, it doesn't mean that these tweets and this message that she's sending out, we're going to let slide, because she's not right and she needs to learn something from these mistakes. So I've been giving some thought to this cancel culture thing. You don't like it, and you've been giving me some food for thought as far as this, but I hope that people can learn from their mistakes and evolve from things like this.
Well, it's so interesting too, because it comes at a time when we're going to talk a little bit more about this, where or at least our country is trying to
Mm-hmm.
erase all things transgender. Like I said, we'll be getting into that in the next story here, but it doesn't help the commitment and the progress that we've seen with the transgender community to have a transgender actress say these things from another country even. And it's harmful. And it just makes me think, though, didn't don't Netflix and a lot of these, in any other company, they do a little bit of more research onto who you are and who they hire. But
Mm-hmm.
things do come up. Maybe they don't. And I know I'm about to work with Vakaya on an upcoming Caribbean cruise, and there's certain things that we've been told we can't disparage, which I would never do because I love Vakaya. And by the way,
Yeah.
everyone should check out Vakaya's upcoming trips that they have. But there's obviously we can't on the trip discuss competing companies, and they have a sign a whole thing. But if Vakaya is so inclusive, but I think maybe some of these companies should do a little bit more background check on some of the people
Oh,
that they hire.
I agree.
And I'm sorry, when you talk about racist things, when you talk about Muslim, when you talk about anti-Semitic, those are like huge things that really affect all of us and our culture and are harmful and hurtful and have an impact on us. And those you can't just throw those things out and then expect to get an Academy Award. Now you're in the spotlight. Now you're a transgender, the first ever. And you don't think those things are going to come back to you, especially in this climate, what's going on? I mean, the Oscars are an American institution. Of course, they're going to come out. They come out with P. Diddy, they come out with everybody else. I mean, it's just going to come out. I don't know why she could have gotten ahead of this even. I don't know that it would have done any good,
I don't think
but
so.
she didn't. And she's seemingly a little bit acting like it's not a big deal. But honey, I think for sure she's not going to win. And good luck with other. It's just, it doesn't look good, right? I mean, Ray
Yeah.
watching, but I mentioned we are live. Ray, hello. Good to see you, Ray. Welcome back. He says that we shouldn't cancel anyone. Everyone should be included, uh, but B, yeah, you better have some teeth behind it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And they think that you're looking in
Oh,
other
wait.
countries. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
know. I'm
Also,
gonna
you
let
know
you read
what?
the comments because you know I never
No.
do a good job on it.
Also, you know what really kind of stings about this? You don't expect the call to be coming from inside of the house. You
Yeah,
do, and this is one of our own that is who knows the feeling of being othered, and they
yeah.
still are out here othering and making people feel unwelcome or unloved in this world, and that's not what we're about. That is not what we're about.
Right.
It's 2025, y'all. Let's get it together, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. We've got to move on because we just wanted to read you here in America. Here are all of Trump's executive orders that have targeted transgender people so far.
Let me get my drink together.
Yeah, I would argue, targeted and erased, since he said in the inauguration that there's basically only two sexes. And I've heard this today. The governor of Texas was at the White House, and he couldn't even in an interview acknowledge the transgender side of it all. They were talking about the erasure of transgender athletes participating in sports. And while that's a conversation to be had, here are some of the things that have been implemented in the White House since he became elected. All right, starting out, the transgender military ban. Basically, no transgender people in the military. And by the way, there are a huge uh, number of people that are transgender that are currently in the military. Do they just get expelled immediately? Ending federal funding for gender affirming care, targeting trans students and supportive educators, exiting the World Health Organization. And as we all know, the WHO has done so much for HIV, including Mpox and so forth, for the community at large. Those are just some of the things that have been implemented, Kodi. When you hear these things that have been implemented, what are your thoughts? Revoking workplace protections. Those are some of the other ones. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on these?
So this makes me very angry. Actually, I talked about how I went to therapy today. This was my entire hour talking about this because it really is mind-boggling to me. It
Yeah.
makes me so stressed out, it makes me angry, it makes me want to get out on the street and do something about it. So I do have an action plan. If I mean, we can talk about it later because you were involved. I involved you. I don't know if you know
Thank you.
this.
I'm happy to be involved in anything you're involved in. So yeah.
Thank you. Yes, fabulous. But he literally is trying to erase our existence and our very identities. He wants to take all the progress that we made in the past, what, 70, 80, 100 years and just kind of eradicate it. And he wants to eradicate us. So I can't go back. I'm not going to do that. I am not on board with this. And I'm going to do what I can in order to fight because that's what we
Yeah.
have to do in order to make sure that this country lives up to its promise. So I'm not going to stand for it. Jasmine Crockett is not going to stand for it. I love her. I love Jasmine Crockett so much. Yeah, but I hope that people see the error of their ways. And people are already regretting voting for him. So I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bryce just put in the chat that ICE has already taken children in his town. So
Well, we can't eliminate what Bryce is saying and what is a reality right now. There are so many people, LGBTQ people, that are affected by ICE raids right now, and it's a reality and it is close to home. And it's scary right now for those people that have been here, that are a part of a fabric of our community, and we need to fight those fights as well. Thank you for bringing that up. But in a even more closer range, the CDC, the CDC, which is responsible for HIV, for all of our basically learning about HIV, for PrEP, has, and so many other things, of course, but as it
so
relates to
many.
our community, is basically scrubbing transgender web content as it exists today. The CDC and prevention and other federal agencies have altered or removed hundreds of pages of HIV related information on their websites due to what's going on right now. Forget about DEI. This stuff is actually affecting our community. Now you can't even find information. Some of it has gone back, but do you know, Kodi, that they've actually replaced it with LGB and taken out the T? We're acting like they don't exist anymore, and that's certain things. STI content appears largely intact, but things like the CDC's guidelines for doxycycline, which we've talked about on this, doxypep, which is showing to reduce incidences of gonorrhea and chlamydia, that's no longer on there. The CDC was also responsible for information about Mpox, and that seemingly is not on there as well. CDC is the authoritative source for a lot of this information, and we're not getting that anymore. And it's basically up to, I just got a new dosage of my PrEP, but who's to say how long, and I hope it doesn't, because I don't want to put that out there, but when it starts trickling down to the insurance agencies and covering some of this stuff that is life-saving, Kodi.
Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand how Trump and Elon can think that erasing data about how to be healthy from the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, how that could help the community at large. It's just going to hurt people. The kids are not going to be able to learn from our previous mistakes and things that we went through. I'm not teaching the kids. I'm not out here trying to teach the kids anything. They need to be able to go to the CDC website and look it up for themselves. So yeah, I don't know what they have against the dolls, the trans girls. I feel like they are trying to erase them from, maybe they had a bad session with one of the girls and maybe they got their back blown out. I don't know. This is all hypothesis. I'm not trying to to put them in any lane. This is all conjecture, but they really actually have a hard on for the transgender community. It's unfathomable. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think they're the target. I think it's what they ran on. I think it's part of Project 2025 that we heard about, that Trump said that he was never going to really implement. But clearly, so many of the things that were in that 900-page document are coming to fruition. And I think the people that elected him, many of the people that wrote these documents, are pushing him to put these things because they want to put so many things in action that show that they are in charge and that they're swinging the pendulum the other direction. And so I think it's scary, and I think it's real, and I think he's doing things willy-nilly on purpose because it's about a message that they're trying to create. Alan, watching us live, says that MAGA is not conservative, they are reactionary. A conservative wants to keep things the way they are. MAGA wants to go back. We can't go back. Yeah, I think, to my point, I think that they're really pushing towards an agenda that they set forth with that Project 2025. Bryce says, a gay man at my gym wears a MAGA hat. I don't get it. Got it. That's kind of gross. You already are in power. Ray says, the less info they put out to the public, the less money the need to spend on it. The tax cut don't pay for themselves. And yeah, it's real, it's happening, but we can
happening.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to fight for all of these.
We definitely will.
A little programming note that, you can always go to our Patreon page. And now when you go to our Patreon page, you can always become a free member. And when you go to our Patreon page, you get, as a free member, you'll get behind the scenes content that you will only get on our Patreon Tags community. Go to patreon.com/TAGSPodcast. And now, if you don't want to join as a tiered member, but we welcome you when you do, and when you support us, you can now buy separate posts, which is a really new feature that Patreon is putting out. So if you want to get our latest bonus episode, you can actually just purchase that for a minimal fee and get that one particular post. You'll still be contributing to Tags podcast community, but you'll get that particular one. And then there's some other videos out there that we're putting out that are exclusive to our Tags Patreon community. And so it's just another way that you can support it by grabbing just a post versus becoming a tiered member. But by all means, become a free tiered member. We really appreciate it. Go to patreon.com/TAGSPodcast. And we really appreciate all of the support, even with our free members, and get some exclusive content. Okay, definitely. Well, yeah, we've got to move on to a recent study that looked at Gen Z. Forget fame and followers, says the study. A new study uncovered what Gen Z is really yearning for, and it might really surprise you. The University of California, Los Angeles revealed Gen Z's top concern is feeling secure in an uncertain world. Young people overwhelmingly reported that safety was their number one priority. And they also indicated that they prioritize empathy and compassion over gaining attention. So this goes against what a lot of people, Kodi, have thought of, maybe the millennials, that everybody wants to be a star, everybody's trying to go on social media, and it's a me culture. Now, because of what's going on, they interviewed 1,644 young Americans, and safety was at the top of the list, which is really interesting, the findings, that they underscore the value of basically maybe the times that we're living in. There's some more stats I'll read in a minute, but what do you just think of that initial finding that found that safety was number one and feeling secure over putting yourself out there on social media and being, quote unquote, a social media star?
Yeah, I think that is just indicative of the times that we're living in, because for me, it looks like this is a time of where everyone has been able to be to explore who they are as a person. I feel like more so than before. You can explore your gender identity. You can explore your sexuality with more freedom than ever before. So I think that in order to do that, you have to feel safe. So I think a lot of that safety has to do with the fact that they are out here exploring themselves, and it could make you feel very vulnerable. So I think that's a huge part of why they value safety over fame and a lot of those things. I also think that the fame bubble has kind of popped because
Yeah.
generations upon generations have been seeking fame and fortune and things of that nature, and at some point it had to come to a head, and literally everybody, all the people are overexposed. So this new generation doesn't see the value in that anymore because it's run of the mill for them. It's kind of boring. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. I've seen this type of behavior in my nephew and a lot of young people nowadays. So I think it's really aligned with where their heads are at and where they're what space they're in at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, there was a study in 2023 that found that more than 40% of US high school students reported persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, with rates significantly higher among female and those identifying as LGBTQ plus. And I think with that in mind, that you're right. I think that bubble has kind of burst a little bit, and you are realizing the powers of social media and how for so many it has a detriment to our wellness. And I think they're seeing that with millennials, and how you can actually have influence among your close core group and focus on your mental health and wellness. I mean, I'm Gen X and never, of course, I've got into social media, and I've always at one point wanted to be a star. And,
Yeah,
we
me
have a
too.
platform, so I still love doing that. But for me, it has been a little bit different. It was more about like acting versus social media. And I think social media has proven for many to be a great thing and still can be, but for many to be really detrimental to your mental health. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of the current generation is realizing that, and we're seeing that they value mental health over and stability over just trying to be the next sensation. And that's good. So I applaud that. So it's
Me
really good.
too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we've got to switch gears here and talk about somebody that we talk a little bit on the show, David Archuleta, who is a favorite of our co-host Teddy Alexis, but we like him as well. And he was a huge contestant on American Idol. Did he place on it, Kodi? I can't even remember if he did. I'm
I
not sure if
don't
he did either. I know. We'd have to ask
know.
Teddy, but
Did he
he is.
win? I don't know.
I know, right?
Let me
Somebody
Google it right now.
Google that right now. But David Archuleta has been opening up about dating. He came out recently. His story is about being a Mormon and all the things of being closeted. And he's recently opening up about moving from Nashville to Los Angeles, California. He's very comfortable about 34, being loud and proud and being out there. His words, he says that self-acceptance is very important to him. And he's been talking a lot about dating, and he's very cute. He was at the Grammys recently looking adorable. And one of the things he said about dating was he's dated some DL guys in the past, that doesn't cut it anymore for him, Kodi. The reason being is that, if you're on one phase of being out and proud and accepting yourself, you can't date somebody that's still in the closet. And that part, I think we've all been there at one
Yeah.
point, where that was acceptable to us at one point. We maybe it worked, but do you see the growth that he's showing? And did you ever have a moment where you dated somebody on the DL and you were like,
Oh,
yeah, or maybe you
girl.
were on the DL?
So, never. I've never been on DL.
You've
I was
been
out.
on high
I was.
alert
I was
and
on the OL out loud. All since
out loud
birth,
and
honey.
proud.
First of all, he came in second. Okay, that's why I was
Okay.
confused about where he
I
placed
know. I
because
put you on
he
the
came.
spot.
I was like panicked, like a deer in headlights. Like I don't know
Do we
what's
have a
going on
Teddy
here.
button that we could just like check in real quick?
Exactly, phone a friend in here.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he's come to this realization. We all have to. And yes, I have been in a relationship with somebody who wasn't completely out. My
Yeah.
first
Uh-oh. Here we go.
serious relationship. Here we go, story time, honey.
I love story time on this show.
My first serious relationship was with a man. He was a little bit older than me. He was from Greece, and
Oh,
he's from Greece. His family is all in Greece, but he lived in Philadelphia, and we moved in together. We were doing we were domestic partners, so technically I've been married.
wow.
I know, girl. You finding something new out about me?
I mean,
um. So yeah, and we were living together, and but he wasn't out to his family, and his mother came to
okay.
visit,
Yeah.
and he said, "Can you move out of our house that we live in together, and you can leave all your stuff here, but can you move out while my mother is visiting?" So
Oh, hell to the N to the O.
so yeah, that happened, and of course it didn't sit right with me. It made me feel like I was a secret. It made me feel I've lived
Yeah.
authentically for
Yeah.
a very by that time for a very long time. I was only 27, but I came out when I was 18, so for 10 years almost I was living very authentically out loud with my family, and I was honest and open and truthful with everybody. I'm not judging anybody for anything, but for me it felt regressive, so
Yeah.
I had to end things immediately, and it was very painful, but it's something that I had to do for myself. So I totally get where David Archie is coming from, and I really applaud
Yeah.
him.
I'm really happy for him because, you and I didn't seem to know as much as our co-host Teddy did, but
I
he
think it's
has
hard to
really,
know as much as Teddy knows about David Archuleta.
okay.
Okay.
But David has really been getting a lot of gay press and riding that wave of gay media, of gay stars that are really on the rise right now. And we're really celebrating them. I mean, if you remember, there was a time and a place where only closeted LGBTQ performers that we didn't even know, we thought maybe they were, and we only idolized the divas. And now we've got Troye Sivan that we're going to talk about in a
Hmm.
second here. And we've
Yeah.
got all of these great Billy Porter and so many, artists that just won at the Grammys that are being really celebrated for their music and their talent and for also they're allowed to actually be LGBTQ. So he is riding that wave right now and
Yeah.
him talking about his coming out story as a Mormon, talking about his dating experience is really right now, and I think it's excellent. I'm really happy for him. And no, I also agree. You can't go backwards. There was a time
Yeah.
in college where, of course, I also dated people that were on the DL, and I was still not DL. I just wasn't really out. And,
Hmm.
when you finally come out, you are loud and proud with it in your own way. And you can't be with somebody that's just
It's just so
denying on
difficult.
that. You can wish them well, but it's just not going to work. So I wish him well in his new phase. And by the way, tomorrow he is releasing a new version of Freedom by the one and only George Michael on the 35th anniversary of George Michael's dropping of Freedom, the iconic song. And he's doing it because of what we're going through right now and how we really have to acknowledge freedom and the freedoms that we may be losing. And I just think it's going to be an anthem. He posted a little TikTok video of what it sounds like, and it sounds like it's going to be really good. So
Sounds
I am
good.
here for it. And yeah, I'm excited for it. So any comments are coming through while I switch gears here that you could read?
Yeah, Alan says David Archuleta even talked about the fact that he's not 100% bottom. He was pretty candid, so he's been truthful and honest in all of his interviews. Ray says, "Can you really use the term dating when the other person is DL? Isn't that just a hookup?" What would you say, Steve?
It depends on what the situation was. I mean, if they were
Yeah.
spending time together and more than just sex, but you could be with somebody. Well, I don't know. Why don't we just use you as an example? You just told the
Me?
whole story of practically being domestic partners with somebody, and the moment, so that's super close. And then the moment that his family members were coming into town, he asked you to leave.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I mean, it can be dating, but then when the stakes get high, they run away.
Hmm.
So it's like maybe you didn't know this at the time when you're spending time with them. And yeah, I guess my point to Ray is your story is a perfect example of it was more than a hookup. You probably didn't realize that he was going to say that to you. Can you go away while my family visits?
Go away.
Or whatever. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I think you're a perfect example of it was more than a hookup. You called yourself domestic partners.
Yeah.
So
And you know what? There have been thousands and thousands of quote unquote roommates throughout the years. So yes, it could
yeah,
totally happen where people are uh, committed to one another, yet they're not completely out. So yeah, I agree with
correct.
you.
Yeah, right. So, oh my gosh. We've got to move on. We said we were going to talk about Troye Sivan, and we will. And he was nominated for a Grammy, and he's had this huge tour with Charlie XCX, very sweaty tour that was a hit. And he was talking recently about producing new music. And right now he says, I am really inspired by sex. We're going into the studio tomorrow, literally. I feel so proud to be gay, a gay man, to be a queer man today more than ever, he told Pride. And I think that's really speaking to what we were kind of talking about a minute ago with David Archuleta, that this is a really time to celebrate, and we got to celebrate some of these wins right now, especially in this climate,
Hmm.
that to be an LGBTQ plus person, to be an LGBTQ plus performer, artist, that never has there ever been a time and place that you can put out what you want. We have this show that we talk freely about gay sexuality, and they are also free to produce music on a large scale that really talks about sexuality, about what's going on. And I think it's really good that he's going to explore more on sexuality. What do you think about Troy and his continuing his ride on his wave?
Yeah, I love it. I love sex. So I can't wait to hear what this music is all about. But I'm just confused a little bit because what was his previous music about? Because Rush was a sexy song to me. So I guess he's more getting more in depth with his sex and all that type of and those types of things. Maybe Charlie XCX, which Brat was a very sexual album. So maybe there's some influences from there as far as digging deep into. Maybe he's friends with Kim Petras because Slut Pop, girl, she was crazy. So I'm excited to see what he has coming. He's always provided fantastic music previously. So I can't wait to see what he's got cooking.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he's definitely one that is on the radar for many of us. And I'm really happy for him. And I think that's really good, like riding that wave, and continued success to Troye Sivan. Okay, well, we've got any comments while I move on to one of our hot topics that we need to be talking about. You and I have been talking about knowing in our last episode of Tags podcast, episode 637. And I mentioned that I had went to my doctor for my annual physical and I got my testosterone levels checked. And we were talking about how not every doctor always is so quick to want to test your testosterone levels. And they're like, oh, are you having any problems? And it's like, No, maybe not, but why can't I get that simple blood test? And I got mine and I said that it was pretty high, but I also said it might have to do with some supplements I was taking, natural, but still. Well, now we're reporting on 7 foods that a recent article came out by Kirsten Nunez that talks about 7 foods that could be messing with your testosterone levels. And we need to know those foods and we need to know why to avoid. And of course, there's certain things like stress, keeping a healthy body weight, regular exercise that we all know are things that are going to help your testosterone levels. But we also need to know what are some of those things that could be harming them, right, Kodi? And
Mm-hmm.
here are some of the 7 foods that could harm your testosterone. Things like sugared, sweetened drinks, sodas, juices, all those things. Basically, you also need to know things like your glucose levels, like can they be raised too high? Too much sugar in your system can actually affect your testosterone, and that is not a good thing. I don't fortunately like a lot of sugary other than alcohol. So, but I don't like sodas and all of those things. So I'm pretty good.
I like
Do
sweets.
you?
I like
Okay.
sweets. But I've normally, under normal circumstances, I don't really eat a lot of sweets, but recently, especially with the holidays, I've been sweeted out, so I need to cut back
We
a
all
little
have
bit.
those moments. And I think a little bit,
Yeah.
don't kill yourself on those kinds of things. Next up is certain fats. Certain fats, there's good fats and then there's not so great fats. The good fats are things like avocado, of course, coconut oil, a minimum amount. But then there's really not good fats. Of course, fats that come from trans fats are really not good for you. And those are the things that can really affect your testosterone levels if you have too much of those fats. Also, a simple blood test can determine your LDL bad and your HDL good. And then we were talking about it on the last episode that knowing even if you have a high cholesterol number, what's that ratio number between
Hmm.
LDL and HDL is also a good number to actually know as well. Because even though you might have high LDL, which is the bad, the ratio can tell you a better indicator of where you're at with that. So watching your fats, alcohol, no surprise there, can negatively impact testosterone levels. And what do you think about
Guess I
that?
gotta cut out
Because
sweets.
I know. And how much is too much? Well, according to this study, excessive drinking is defined as 15 or more drinks per week for men and 8 or more drinks per week for women. So those are
Carry
kind
the
of the things it's
two.
about. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, I've started to limit, not do a whole month of this kind of stuff because I just know my reality and I just had my physical, but like last night I didn't drink at all. And I drank tea at night and I will have my goal is to have at least 3 days, 2 to 3, where I'm not drinking and then have like wine. That's my own thing, but everybody's got to figure that out for themselves, correct? Do you have any thoughts on
Definitely.
alcohol for you?
I mean, I have been cutting back personally. Well, more for caloric intake, but that just means that I'm drinking a lot more White Claw.
Oh,
And
there we
yeah,
go.
I mean, it's low in calories, it's low in alcohol. It's my saving grace. So everybody has to find their way, right?
Yes. Another indicator that could actually be a detriment to your testosterone levels is refined carbohydrates. And when we talk about refined carbohydrates, we're talking about white bread, pastries, baked goods, those kinds of things that have a lot of white flour. They can be inflammatory to your body, they can lead to obesity, and they can also lower potentially your testosterone. So, some of other factors, that's not surprising, but here's some other things that I didn't realize could have an effect. Licorice root. I
Oh,
I didn't even know the root may have weak, may consider lowering your testosterone levels, which we know we need to look a little bit more into that, but you could consider avoiding teas or herbal supplements with licorice root. And
Okay.
that's just according to a scientific review. You should really look at that for your own intake of that. Mint, which I love mint.
Me
In fact, I just
too.
bought some fresh mint because I thought I'm going to steep my own mint tea. But I think it has to do with high levels of mint. And there was only a small study of that was done to female rats that showed a certain amount of that. So keep that in mind.
I'm not a female rat, so we're doing okay.
No, you are not. I promise you that. In the year of the snake, Kodi is not. Other
Ooh.
factors that can lower testosterone are age. As we get older, it lowers just in general, a lack of exercise, stress, certain medications. And you should maybe talk to your doctor about the medications. Type 2 diabetes, hyperthyroidism is another thing too. So, just some things to consider when you are looking at your testosterone levels. But by all means, like we said on episode 637, get your T levels checked, particularly if you're a certain age. Just know that number, and then you can have an educated conversation about that with your practitioner. So, yeah.
Fabulous.
What is Alan saying there about White Claw?
He loves White Claw. He likes seaside iced teas too. And he said that there's mint and Moscow Mule. So yum. So, I mean, me and Alan can go out together. I don't know if you're invited. No, of course you are.
I am not a White Claw fan, and you
Oh,
know
you can drink a
that.
Moscow Mule. That's what Alan
Okay.
said.
Oh, okay. I like that. Damn it.
We love a mule.
Okay, let's move on. Is it time to give some advice here? I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's give some advice. And somebody on Reddit recently wrote the question, do I have a too high sex drive? I mean, I was asking that to my boyfriend the other day too. It's like, I wanted to like, well, whatever. We'll get into that later. They wrote on this, my partner and I have been together for 4 years now. He is my star, my love, and I'll love him until death. However, it seems we have different sex drives when we started dating. It was all good since we only saw each other on weekends. We were pretty turned on, and when we met, we had sex about 6 times in a weekend. I'm the
Oh
top, he's the
my
bottom.
goodness.
Now things have changed, and we have sex around once a week or every 2 weeks. He has also had issues with his bum regarding things like hemorrhoids, which has slowed things down a bit. And that's a reality that can
Yeah.
happen. I'm very sexual and I could have sex with him every day. I feel like I'm not getting enough anal sex. I was wondering how you would handle the situation. I'm aware that you can't have anal sex every day and that the body needs some rest. I don't want to be too demanding, but at the same time, I can't switch off my sex drive. What should I do? And, I'm really cognizant of the fact that he says he's aware that things can change throughout a lifespan of a relationship. And the things that I would say maybe that you could suggest to your partner about maybe the hemorrhoids and if there's issues going down there is see a really good practitioner for, like Dr. Goldstein here in New York, that is the greatest we call him the good ass doctor. And by the way, he has a
Yes.
really good book. Oh my gosh, what's his book called? Because we want to shout out his book because he talks about a lot of this stuff. I will look it up.
But
Can you look it
seriously?
up? But but seriously.
Ooh,
Thank
look at this
you.
brain.
He talks about all of these things, and there are certain things, if your partner is or you are struggling with some of these things, you need to know there's certain things that can be remedied and you could fix a lot of these things. And so if that's an issue, you should know those and take care of those things. But I would say I think sex drive and life in general does get in the way of sex. Like 6 times in a weekend is a whole lot. But I mean, once a week is pretty good. I think if you can do that, I mean, of course, more is better. I don't live with my boyfriend right now, so but we may change that, and
Mhm.
it will be more than once a week. I guarantee that. But life is has to factor in. But what I would say is if your sex drive is higher, have that conversation with them. And if one of the things that's getting in the way is things like the other one's anal health, then they need to see somebody about that as well. And but also check in them where they're at with sex, because sex doesn't always have to mean anal like they suggested in this. It could be mutual masturbation, it could be fraudage, it could be all kinds of other sexy play. What do you say to this, and what would you say for the advice?
Well, the first thing I would say is I think you're 100% right about going to see a great doctor because that can make all the difference. But once that happens and they have the conversation about where they are with their sex drives and with how their bodies are reacting and they hash things out as a couple, I think that my options or my go-tos as far as to getting ahead of this issue is first and foremost see if you're capable of opening up the relationship, because sometimes you always don't have to get your sexual needs don't have to be met by your partner. I think that that is a viable solution for many couples. If it's not a
I
viable
love that
solution,
coming from you.
well, it's not for me, but I'm not against it at all. You
I
know,
love it. Yeah, right.
like I for a lot of people it's something that they can do, but for me
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. But if you can do it, good for you. If you can't do it, there are certain other things that you can do in order to meet that anal sex need, because I think that he was specifically talking about anal sex that he wanted to have more of. There are many, many toys that you and your partner can get together and you can use them in order to. There's asses out there that are plastic asses. I didn't know how else to say it. there's a sleeve out there that you can get. It's like a gel sleeve. I saw somebody using it the other day and on like porn, and it was so hot. It was
Wow.
ridiculously hot. So I think that there's many avenues that you can go down if you are looking for anal sex more often, and you love your partner. You guys got to work it out at the end of the day.
Great advice.
Thank
And
you.
I love even the opening it up and having that discussion, but it always comes down to communication. And that's really good
Hmm.
advice. And yeah, because it sounds like they're happy, and it sounds like it's sometimes it's just sex. And but they have something that's really unique and special and long term that they want to continue to nourish and keep going. So that it can be remedied in many ways, and you listed many of the excellent solutions that they can go down that path. Good job.
And
I
also,
love it.
I kind of put out there that this is not uncommon. This happens a
Yeah.
lot. Differing sex drives. I've been through it myself, so I feel like a lot of the things that you could apply here are very practical. You can, if you need to masturbate every day. That's what I do twice a day sometimes. Then you do what you got to do for the one that you love, right?
Yes. Our guest last week, uh, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but for Voda really talked about emotional intelligence of our community. And I got a
Yeah,
little
right.
bit of
So
pushback. Jaren So
yes.
of Voda, the new app about mental wellness exercises, really talked about our community having a lot of mental, emotional intelligence over our counterparts. I got a little pushback for putting that on social media, that particular statement, but I actually agree with it too. I think we have always been an ostracized community, and we've developed our own tactics that work for us, including open relationships, including thruples, including being, having all kinds of things. And so I really agree with him in many ways. And I think that, yeah, there are so many ways that we can keep that are specific to our community about our sexuality. And I applaud it. So just communication is always at the forefront of it. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, we always love to talk about straight up gay porns, thirst trap, roundup, and I'm putting it in the chat box for all of you watching us live right now, but I'll put it on Talk About Gay Sex, episode 638. And this week they're asking, out of 18 gay porn stars, who took the best photo of the week? And it's our job on an auditory podcast to vividly describe who we picked and why. Can I go first, Kodi?
Go right ahead, darling.
This week was a really good one, and there was a lot of really sexy ones, as there always are. But I have to go with the first one that was just so sexy. I hope you didn't pick it. It was Joshua. Did you? Joshua Mateo and Victor Alves, who are standing on a bed, a very sexy bed, and it is Joshua who is standing tall and proud with this gorgeous brown, luscious body with a backwards cap, a goatee, and he is looking straight into the camera with his huge, thick, erect, beautiful brown cock. I mean, it's so thick, and it's ready to pound his partner, Victor Alves, in this moment, who's also looking into the camera, who has really perfectly inflected tattoos around his body with a beautiful bubble butt. And they are both looking into the camera like, I want to know what's going on next, because this is the scene I need to see. And with that, I'm going to vote on them. I'm assuming, are they a couple, Kodi, when they post them like that?
Not quite sure. They might just be scene partners, because I've seen that before.
Scene partners. We used to say that in acting class back in the day, and my scene partners weren't like these, but
I mean,
I love it.
I want this kind of scene partner in my life.
I want that kind of scene partner. Check them out. Who do you vote for and why?
Yeah, I chose Seth Cain this week. He is closer to the bottom.
That hair.
The hair on his legs is just amazing. He is
Sculpted.
on a bed. He's leaning back, and he's got his hole and his cock showing in the picture. He's so lean. He's got a New York Yankees hat on, and he's looking in the picture like, just eat it right now. Eat this hole right now. And all I can do is say yes. He looks delicious.
The coiffing of the hair, the mowing of the lawn is pretty spectacular. It was very strategic.
I am not a fan. I like a nice fade. So that part is a little bit jarring for me, but I'm willing to get over it for him.
Oh, damn it. I was going to I don't have a lot of hair down there, but yeah, so I'm okay on that one.
Yeah,
people watching us
my butt.
That's what you could do that too.
Yeah. Oh,
you do
yeah,
a fade.
Definitely.
You go to the barber
for my butt hair.
Can you imagine? Ray says Denzel and Seth Cain get his vote. Alan says agree. Joshua Mateo and Vitor Alves. I want in on that one. Yum. Yeah, really good stuff. Oh my gosh. So much fun. I can't believe we've come to the end of our hour here. Kodi, so many great topics, so much to get into on this episode. Don't forget, you can always go to our Tags Patreon community, grab a free tier, and know that you can also get specific videos from us. If you just want to purchase one of those, go to patreon.com/TAGSPodcast. You can always follow my co-host Kodi on the gram at Mr. Maurice, at Mr. Maurice. Follow him on Blue Skies at Mr. Maurice. Follow me on the gram. I am _Stevie. Also on Blue Sky and X at TAGSPodcast. And you will get a preview, and I'm posting tomorrow, of what you would see on my Just for Fans and OnlyFans, and you get links to that as well. So check that out. And in the meantime, continue having hot gay
gay
sex. Lovely.